And this is the Thursday, August 24th meeting of the Environmental Commission. And I'd like to ask Sean to read the land heritage statement, please.
Thank you. I acknowledge that the land the city of Ann Arbor occupies is the ancestral, traditional, and contemporary lands of the Anishinaabe, including Odawa, Ojibwe, and Badewadmi, and Wyandot peoples. I further acknowledge that our city stands, like almost all property in the United States, on lands obtained generally in unconscionable ways from indigenous peoples. The taking of this land was formalized by the Treaty of Detroit in 1807. Knowing where we live, work, study, and recreate does not change the past, but a thorough understanding of the ongoing consequences of this past can empower us in our work to create a future that supports human flourishing and justice for all individuals.
Thank you, Sean. And I want to just step back and read another thing that I'm supposed to read at the beginning of this meeting, which is to welcome you all and to this electronic meeting of the Environmental Commission. It's in accordance with executive orders that were put in place in 2020 by the governor to affect social distancing and mitigate the spread of COVID-19. We intend to conduct the meeting similar to an in-person meeting and ask that you be patient if there are technical issues. Public comment is welcome and will be via telephone only. To speak at public comment, please call 888-788-0099 and enter meeting ID 922-9696-1664. It's a lot of numbers. I'll repeat them in a minute. This information is available on the published agenda in the public notices section of the city website and on the broadcast of this meeting on CTN, channel 16 AT&T and channel 99 and on a2gov.org/watchctn. So I want to thank everyone for being here. And now we'll proceed with the roll call, please, Sean.
Sure. All right. Councilmember Ackman.
Here, Ann Arbor.
Thank you. Vice Chairperson Brown.
Present in Ann Arbor.
Thank you. Commissioner Callawart.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Curtis.
Here, Ann Arbor.
Thank you. Commissioner Dale. I know Anya was having some trouble, but I do see her here. So.
I'll call it a yes.
Yeah. Councilmember Dish.
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Graham. Commissioner Gruber.
Here in Ann Arbor.
Thank you. Commissioner Marson. Commissioner Mursky.
Here in Ann Arbor.
Thank you. Chairperson Mitchell.
Here in Ann Arbor.
Thank you. Commissioner Nedrich. And Commissioner Wehing. All right, that is a quorum.
Great, thank you, Sean. And now I'd like to ask for approval of the agenda.
I so move.
Thanks.
Second.
Moved by Brown and seconded by Commissioner Gruber. Thank you. And next, I'd like to ask for approval of the minutes. And we have two sets of minutes. And I'd like to ask your leave to approve both the May 25th, 2023 minutes, as well as the June 22nd, 2023 minutes at the same time. So all in favor?
Sorry.
Sorry.
Chairperson Mitchell, I think we have to vote on approving the agenda after it's been moved and seconded.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. Well, would everyone like to approve the agenda as written? I'm going to say yes. Thank you. Thank you, Sean. Keep me in line. And now, well, let me just ask, is it acceptable to approve 2 minutes in one vote? Everybody okay with that? I'd like to have a motion to approve the 2 sets of minutes. Richard Gruber and seconded by Brooks Curtis. Thank you. Thank you. And now we'll move into public commentary. Public commentary.
Chairperson Mitchell. We have to have the vote for that one as well.
Okay. All right. Sorry.
And you should open it up for discussion in case there is any too.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Any discussion of the minutes? I see no hands, but I appreciate the cue. And would you all like to vote to approve the minutes? Show of hands. I see 100%. Thank you. I appreciate being directed. All right, thank you. Now I'd like to move into public comment. This is an opportunity for persons to speak for up to 3 minutes. Please call 888-788-0099 and enter meeting ID 922-9696-1644. City staff will select callers that have raised their hand one by one using the last 3 digits of your phone number. In order to electronically raise your hand, please press *9 on your phone. You'll hear an automated announcement that the host is allowing you to speak. And when speaking, please move to a quiet area and mute any television or background sounds so that we may hear you clearly. Please state your name and address at the beginning of your comments. And thank you, Sean. That's perfect. I love having that on the screen. Is anyone here to make a comment?
We do not have anyone on the line yet.
Okay. We'll give 30 seconds.
We do have someone on the line and they have just raised their hand. So caller ending in 815, I'm going to now allow you to talk.
Great. And do we have the cue for unmuting the phone? That is *6. *6 to
unmute. Thank you. Caller 815, you can press *6 to unmute. There we go.
Hi, can you hear me? I'm Praveen Dayalu. I'm at 809 Brookside Drive in Ann Arbor.
We can hear you. Thank you.
I'm calling. I'd like to comment, thanking the board for taking my call, and acknowledge that there's a climate crisis, and one of many things that we can do in Ann Arbor, because we have to lead, is to plant a variety of native plantings, providing more food for our birds and animals and insects, and less requiring of pesticides, herbicides, and watering. I have a native prairie garden, which I've had for the past 10 years in my lawn extension, and it has generally been well received. I got it approved by our homeowners association, despite it being rather kind of used to just the traditional green lawn. And when I argued for it, it got a lot of support. I'm calling because I would like the board to recommend an update to the ordinance that talks about an arbitrary minimum for the grass height. And I think this needs to be clarified for native grasses, and the grasses have seed heads at the top that are very attractive. And many of the best ones, like little blue stem and side oats grama, which are encouraged in other towns, can grow 3 feet. Sometimes it's 2.5, sometimes it's 4. And I think an arbitrary limit is both forces the homeowners to decapitate the seed heads, and the garden does not sustain itself. In addition, it is very difficult for the Community Standards Office to enforce this, and they have admitted that they wish the ordinance was changed, because they are not botanists, and so I think the bottom line is it would be nice to have aesthetics updated for the needs of our era, and for these kinds of ordinances to be simplified for the good of everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Sean, are there any other callers?
There are no other callers.
No other callers. Okay, so I'd like to thank our caller and say that I appreciate those comments and hope that we can move forward a little more swiftly than we have on our vegetation ordinance changes that were passed actually 2 years ago by this commission. So it would be great to keep moving forward so that we can respond to the climate crisis and just be more up to date. So thank you all for this. And I want to thank everybody and just say, hey, I've missed you all. It's been like more than a month since our last meeting. And the last time was because of a power outage. We missed this meeting. And this one has been somewhat rearranged, I think in ways that will ultimately be good for us all as a commission. And I welcome our first speaker, Brian Staglitz, to join us and talk with us about the new environmental manager position and its relationship to the Environmental Commission. So thank you, Brian, for being here and for being available to respond to some questions tonight.
Sure. Thank you for me. So I guess I'll start. I know you might have received it last minute, but I think Sean maybe distributed to you the job description for the role. Is that true? So you have that. Great. So I won't read through that whole thing, but I guess I'll just give you a little bit of background on how we got here. So I think you're all probably aware of that this position was, there was an environmental coordinator position in the city, and with the onset and the forming of the Office of Sustainability and Innovation, that position was ceased. And to some degree, some of the responsibilities of that have been absorbed by that office. But there's also some things that have been sort of distributed through the organization and have been picked up in other ways. So over time, we've been assessing, whether we have the need for returning this position in some form to the city. And in my role, and I've had the opportunity, and the city administrator has given me the opportunity to sort of reassess what we think our needs are in public services to support some of the initiative environmental issues. And we for support for bringing this position back. You've seen the job description for as part of our 24 budget. And council has approved that. So we are in the process of filling that role, and your chairperson is sitting in on the interview panel, which will be next week. So we're forward to making some progress here pretty rapidly in filling this position. How does this position fit into services? So I think you're all quite familiar with public services, but we oversee all of the three water utilities, stormwater, drinking water, and wastewater, as well as the engineering, solid waste programs. There are several areas where the environmental manager position sort of fits and dovetails well into the services that we provide. We're overseeing, for example, response to the Gelman plume. We're dealing with, making sure that we're achieving our solid waste diversion goals and metrics. We operate and are responsible for compliance with the landfill that's closed and that we're still monitoring. The stormwater program has water quality and environmental related issues associated with it that we deal with. So from our perspective, like we really needed to have some support from a position like this for just general environmental compliance. And then also serve you all the commission. Know that the Office of Sustainability is doing an excellent job over the past several years. But we also had many conversations with Missy in terms of that we think maybe there's a better fit for being that liaison role. Moving forward, we'll be working in partnership very much. I work with Missy all the time on many issues. So there's a lot of overlap, and we hope that the transition for you all will also be seen. You will still see Missy and her team. They're very much engaged in a lot of the important to you all, but the direct liaison to the commission would be transitioning eventually to the new person once we onboard. The position will sit as a manager in public services, so it'll be a parallel role to city engineer, our drinking water quality manager, our systems planning manager. So it's a senior level role in the organization. I'll stop there and see if there's anything you want me to elaborate on. I'd be happy to.
Steve, please proceed.
Yeah. Hi, Brian. Thanks a lot for for this announcement. I had one question, and that was that the stormwater was not mentioned in the job description, but I just heard you say that. So I'm glad that this will be part of the purview of this position. And then I was wondering if this person will become the liaison to the Huron River Watershed Council for their mid Huron consortium, and whether this person will also be expected to work with the county water commissioner directly.
All good questions. And, I guess the answer to some of them is, since this will be a new position, I think we're going to be working closely with the new individual and the people who are currently providing some of those services for the city and working towards, what makes the most sense. So I guess I don't really have answers to some of those questions now, except that, we'll work with existing staff and the commission to see who is best to sit in some of those roles. There's a pretty large purview for this job. So we also need to be careful, depending on who we end up selecting, that we make the right transition, and it may not all be all at once. So some of these roles may transition over time. I think our person who sits on the board of the Huron River Watershed Council has been doing it a long time and has been doing a great job, and we may want to maintain continuity there. So I think some of these things really just need to be open for discussion as we progress through time. And also, I think, one of my goals would be to make sure that we have an opportunity to have that person sit down with you as a group in the appropriate format, maybe a working session if possible, to talk about what your goals are. And I think making sure that there is, strong alignment between the things that they're working on and also the things that are important to this body. So we look forward to having that opportunity in the future.
Yeah. Thanks, Brian. That's great.
Commissioner Murphy.
Brian, thanks very much, first of all, for recreating this position. And secondly, I really applaud you appearing before the Environmental Commission to gain input from us. I had 3 points. First of all, I remember interacting with Matt Nod, and one of the topics that he would often refer to is himself being responsible for brownfields. I looked through the job description. I never saw the term there. On the other hand, I recognize it's both a technical as well as a layperson's term, but it might be helpful to include that term somewhere in the job description. Second, I would, if you haven't already done so, I assume you have, but I think it might be appropriate to talk to Matt, even though he's been retired now for quite some time, just to get his input on the position. I assume you've done that. And the third thing is that I wanted to mention, I don't know if you're familiar with RASIC or RASIC matrices. That's an acronym that is really helpful for a position like this. It defines for a variety of actions and communications and tasks who is responsible, who approves, who does supporting work, who informs and basically processes and receives information, and who consults with various other individuals for all these tasks. There's one line in the job description that I wrote down, which is respond to residents and city council inquiries related to a variety of environmental topics. I think your comment earlier in response to Steve was great, that you want to, when you're onboarding this person, look at their experience, look at their expertise, look at other kinds of internal staff members and what they have. But I think you would find that the creation of such a document would really be helpful in clarifying roles and responsibilities internally. And then also it'd be really helpful for communicating that externally. So if you're not familiar with that term or that tool, I suggest you look into it. I'd be happy to talk to you about it. Those were my 3 suggestions. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Calloway.
Hi, Brian. Thanks for being here. Sorry if I missed this, but did you mention a timeline for what when the person would start, hopefully?
So our plan is to, our interviews are scheduled for next week, and this is a second round of interviews. So we have some finalists who are going to be talking to next week. So really it depends on the results of that and their availability. Some of the candidates are not local, so they're potential relocation. So I would anticipate, and our goal would probably be within the next couple months.
Thank you.
Councilmember Dish.
Thank you. Thank you for being here, Mr. Stieglitz. I wanted to ask what kind of feedback you envisioned this position could give on site plans.
What kind of feedback? So, so that is under the scope of the position, and that's a question that I think is one of the questions we'll be asking about their experience with in the interview. There is some overlap here in terms of some of the roles and responsibilities that community services area provides. So we'll be working, and when Mr. Mirsky talked about brownfields, like, again, that's a little bit more of the purview of Derek's team. But again, we all work together, and we'll need to be working with this person and community services and figuring out, once we bring in some of this expertise in-house, because some of that work, a lot of that work we're contracting out. And in fact, that's one of the ways that we've been able to, financially support this role, is that we're going to be bringing in services that we're currently contracting out to consultants in-house. So some of that will need to be developed, but again, depends on the candidate. But our hope is that some of the environmental review components will become an internal responsibility of this role.
Thank you. That is excellent. I remember us talking about that at budget time, but I hadn't remembered that. And we're having a really good rapport right now with OSI, who's been really helping us with sustainability focused issues, but that's not the only part of environmental review. So I'm appreciative of this, and yeah, thanks.
Anyone else? Any other questions? So I assume that I'll just ask. I assume that we'll work out our schedule also as to how we interface with this person and what specific tasks or asks that we would expect or to direct to whoever this may be. Is that reasonable?
That's a fair statement. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Is there anything else you want to tell us, Brian?
No, we'll just, I'll be sure to keep you in the loop. You'll obviously know a lot more about where we're moving because you'll be participating in the process next week. But happy to keep the commission up to speed. We want to make this as smooth a transition as we can. And I'm sure that Missy and Sean and their team will be working very closely with them to make sure that it goes smoothly.
Right. And I want to just say, I appreciate the work that Sean's been doing for us, and it's really been very helpful. So I'm hoping that we can keep up that level of support, because it really helps the meetings move smoothly. Very much appreciated.
I'll be advocating for having Sean continue to support us. So I'll be talking to Missy about that.
Okay.
But I'm hoping we can work something out.
Great. Good. All right. Okay, one more time, if anyone has any questions for Brian. Otherwise, we'll move on to the next thing. Thank you very much, Brian.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone. This was something that kind of just came up and was a little bit news to me, and I was really glad that Brian was available to speak with us all personally today, because I have the feeling that when looking over the kinds of things that are provided, the services by Brian's department, I think it's a really good fit for what we're doing. And I actually think that this meeting is a good one to follow that anticipation of a new person to work with us when we go through our bylaws, which is the next part of our meeting. And this is our annual review of bylaws. And although it sounds like boring and really administrative, I think it helps, at least for me, keep us on track of what we're supposed to do, and having us think together how we can accomplish our goals. So Sean, I would really appreciate it if you could display the share screen of the bylaws, and if we could just go through some sections. I have some things that I think have been thinking about would be good for us to chat about, and hope that we'll all join right in. Just my screen.
Can everyone see the screen share?
Yes.
Perfect.
Thank you. So here we are. This is our officially lodged in the city's documents, bylaws of the Environmental Commission. And I'd like to just scroll through slowly the purpose and duties. And as we go through this, I've got a few comments of my own, but I hope that others will raise your hands and let us know if you have any comments or concerns, or this is our opportunity to propose some changes. And maybe we need them and maybe we don't. But the purpose to make sure that we've got these integrated policies to protect our air, water, and land is really important to me. And I think that that's where we kind of need to think each time when we take on a project or something that we want to assess as a group. So that's what I see as, like, to me, that's like the leading feature of this commission. We are advisory to council. That's absolutely true. And I think that the opportunity is for us to work with the other commissions that are represented on this commission is really a good thing for us. And I hope that at some point, perhaps maybe those commissions would be asking us questions that we might address. So that's what I see as my comment about 3.1. And I don't see anything to change. Does anybody have any comments on this particular section? And some people, I can't see hands, or I hope that if hands come up that they get bounced to the top of the screen, so I can't. Okay, let's go on to, we're responsible. We report, we work collaboratively. Okay, gonna advise. I had something in mind here. Oh yeah, okay. On, let's see, what's this one? What is that? 3, 2, 3. I just want to point out that about 10 years ago, the Environmental Commission itself actually advised council to establish the Green Streets program that I believe is still in effect. And I think at some point, I was going to be at this point of asking Sean to help us look at the status of Green Streets, you know, to find out how's it going? How many of the streets that have been repaved have used the Green Streets approach, and if there's any way to measure that improvement. So that's just a comment on that one. And further down on number 5.
Chairperson Mitchell, we have a couple of hands.
We do.
I see
Okay.
Councilmember
Okay,
Ackman
thank
first.
you. Councilmember Ackman.
I'm not sure I've heard of the Green Streets program. Can you tell me what that is?
My understanding of it is, and I'm not fully versed in talking about it, but it's a method of constructing streets that supports water absorption. So sometimes it's an underpinning of gravel underneath the asphalt, so that water can be temporarily caught and held and released more slowly during the event of a storm. So it's an attempt at addressing water management. I think there are some other components of it. And it just would be good to know where we are with that. I believe it also includes some aspects relating to transportation in terms of like the bike lanes that are instituted. But yeah, needs a little review. And if you want to be involved in talking through that, that'd be great, since you're on the Transportation Commission. And I can forward you the originating resolution. I have that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Commissioner Gruber.
Yeah, thank you. On 3.2, there are a number of points that specifically mention some of the topics that we advise City Council and the City Administrator on. Transportation, solid waste, environmental risk and pollution, and water.
Yep.
I just wonder if there needs to be an added point here about on biodiversity or natural features, given that we have working groups that focus on those, and we have a caller today that brought up the vegetation ordinance. So, I mean, I'm not sure, perhaps that falls under one of these other points, but it doesn't explicitly jump out at me.
I think that's a good suggestion, because I don't believe that biodiversity is called out. I'm not aware of that in what I recall of just now reviewing these. So thank you. I put a note in my copy. And on 3.5.5, there's an issue of referring to pesticide use, pesticide and herbicide use. I know that I just want you all to know that I've talked with Sean about obtaining a kind of a report on how much pesticides and herbicides the city uses in its integrated management program, just so that we know. We have an IPM program that the city follows, and I think it would just be good for us to know where we are with that. And I see Commissioner Calloway.
Yeah, just to add on, in terms of kind of current priorities that I know we're all focused on, but aren't really identified here, something around, A20, I think should be included here.
Yes.
Or whatever we think is the term that will live on.
Yeah. Okay, so I think it seems like that would be something we need to figure out where to put that in. If this could be
perhaps 7.
Yeah. Do you have any particular wording that you think would work? Otherwise, we'll.
I would be inclined to use A20, but I know that maybe 10 years from now, we're going to look and say, what was that? Hopefully we'll have achieved it all. But maybe carbon neutrality would be the more kind of generic term.
Okay. Yes, thank you. I think that's perfect right there. Okay, good. John Merskey, I see your hand.
Yeah, I support the idea. I think it's important to differentiate the domain of the Environmental Commission versus the Energy Commission when it comes to A20 and decarbonization. So if we do add A20, we might want to indicate, for example, that it's primarily related to solid waste, possibly to carbon sequestration associated with natural features and things like that, just so that it's clear to the public as well as the commission what is the Energy Commission focused on and what is the Environmental Commission focused on. Because I know that people, when they've applied to the new commissions, haven't really understood. I've seen the applications and read them, and sometimes it's not clear to them, not that they're necessarily going to read the bylaws, but it should at least be clear to us, and it should be documented. So
Right.
general
Okay.
support, but just with that qualifier.
Yep, I think it's reasonable and correct to have that separation, because you're dealing with the energy features and energy efficiency and many other things that are really different. But I think this is good, because this is where we need to this could help us in terms of the addressing natural features as we move forward. One of those things that we've been talking about. Great. Okay. Looking for any other hands here. I've got one on number 9. I would like us, and I think I'm going to tag you, Steve, to work on kind of setting up a template for reporting for our annual report, so that we kind of are ready, that we can sort of plug things in. I think that would be really helpful for us. I can't read my notes. Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. This is what, based on pollinators, number 10, advising advocacy for outside of the city. I think it would be great if we wrote up something to advocate for reduction or management or elimination of neonicotinoids at the state level. I think that's probably the level that we need to do it. If we can do it locally, great. But we might want to do it on an advocacy level for a very big goal and a good one. So I'm thinking that might be something that the biodiversity group could work on. When we get to that. Okay. Any others going down the list? That's on for number 10. I just have a question on number 13, meeting with other commissions and in other jurisdictions and other environmental organizations. We haven't reached out to others, but I wonder more reflecting our makeup. We have representatives from, or we will have one from planning. We have Councilmember Dish who's on planning, but the other commissions that are represented, just to have a make sure that we have a kind of a give and take with those. So this is number 13 is really dealing with other jurisdictions. So that's my comment wasn't really quite right. But, okay. That's that. Okay. Any other comments on this section, which is our purpose, objectives, and duties? In general, so we've got a couple of things that are potential modifications. I'm going to suggest, well, I'll ask the group if this is okay. If I work on some modifications of these and put these in with a red line version and send it out to you for review. Does that sound like a reasonable process for you? Steve.
No, that's good. It's good to maybe have a small group work on a draft.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to mention, I put up my hand because for paragraph 14, there's been a confusion about committees and work versus working groups.
Yep.
So the language around there could be cleaned up a bit.
Okay, let me see where I am on that. Okay, that's like Article
14.
9. 14. Oh, okay, 14 here. Yes, and it's also, there's a whole section, Article 9, committees and work groups. Yes. Great communities. Okay, do you have a comment on this that you'd like to add that's specific?
I know just that they mentioned committees, but no, not working groups. So
Yeah.
that creates some confusion.
Yeah, okay, so
We
we
ought to
need
clean
to,
up the language.
right, so on as we go forward on this, we're I think we can probably almost speed through some of the next sections that I consider super administrative, but there's a section called committees and work groups. It's called also Article 9. So the question will be reflect back to this number 14 on this section on committees. Because I think it's a little clearer in this later section of the bylaws, but I agree with this, with your comment on this. Yep, committees are much more formal, is really a way to say this. Yep. Okay. All right. Anything else on these? Okay. And we've got number 16 kind of follows in with that your annual report, the annual work plan. That's where I'm thinking template. And I don't have one yet, if anybody's interested in knowing. Okay, let's go to the next page. Membership. This part I think is pretty easy. I have no suggestions for modification on this, but if anybody else does, John Mirsky.
I'd like to throw out one idea for the group's consideration. Admittedly, we've not discussed this in the Energy Commission, but both the Energy and Environmental Commission have in its bylaws under membership this approach of including 2 youth members between the ages of 16 and 25 that serve 1-year terms. And one of my observations has been that a 1-year term seems pretty short to me. Someone is just sort of getting their feet on the ground, just getting a sense of what's going on, and then they're going off the commission. That doesn't preclude them from extending an additional year, so maybe it's not a problem. But I just wanted to throw out for discussion whether that should potentially be extended to possibly 18 months or 2 years. So I just wanted to raise that point for others to chime in on.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Councilmember Ackman.
I guess my thought about that is, given the fact that they can be reappointed, I'm assuming that the shortened obligation term is to be more inclusive to people who may have kind of a more transient, I guess, situation. But I mean, I'm open to either. I don't have super strong feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that was the thinking of it at the time, is that if you're taking high school students that are leaving for college, or university students at the University of Michigan who are potentially then leaving for a career or for a graduate degree, that 1 year was appropriate. I just wanted to have it discussed, but yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I want to ask, I know that we have Commissioner Wayhang here, who is a youth commissioner, and ask if you, Commissioner Wayhang, have any comments on the term. And I know that you got reappointed. Are you there? There you are.
Yeah, I'm here. I would say I think there's definitely some truth in like the 1-year term being too short, because I definitely like feel like it does take a while definitely to get like acclimated to the commission, and then sort of like by the time you're like ready, like you're like you got it down, it's like your term is up. But also I know like it'd be easy for like juniors and seniors. I know I joined as a sophomore last year, so I still have a lot of time in high school. So for me, like maybe if the term was 2 years, it would make more sense. But I know definitely for like upperclassmen that are definitely going away and like they're graduating soon, a 1 year term is definitely better. Yeah, but it is the renewal is pretty simple too. So I'm pretty sure the 1 year to 2 year term, the transition is not too hard. So I think the 1 year term is fine for youth members.
Okay. So you didn't feel like it was a deterrent to have to re-up, which you did, right? Because you were appointed sort of late in a term and then you renewed, and we're happy to have you. Okay, I think that's possibly part of the question. I mean, we certainly can encourage people to stay if they're available.
And I think the 1 year term would encourage more applicants because it's like a less of a commitment, and you would get more juniors and like seniors in high school.
Okay. All right. We should probably talk about onboarding anybody at any point, so that people feel like they know what they're going to do on this commission. That probably is something that we all could, that could be improved in general. I'm just going to say that. It doesn't have anything to do with membership. Okay. Any other comments on membership that we should include? Thank you, everyone. Can we move on?
Oh, Rita?
Oh, oops, is there a hand? Hi, yes. Please go ahead.
I have one comment. Looking at paragraph 4 here, or do we have somebody appointed by the Planning Commission yet to replace Shannon?
We do not. So that's a follow-up required.
Okay. And the Park Advisory Advisory Commission, we're still good there, right?
We are. Commissioner Marsan is still on. Councilmember Dish, do you have any sense of the appointment process from planning?
Nope.
Okay.
I think I know, that we just got a replacement or a person who's been appointed to step in to Shane's. So I will, I'm sorry. I muted, I de-videoed myself rather than muting myself earlier. I'm so sorry. I hope you haven't heard me banging away as I take notes. I will find out. I will remind the staff that we need to make a selection, but I'm sure that hasn't been pursued because until now we have been down the number. So.
Right. And I assume that it wouldn't necessarily be the new person that joins the Planning Commission. It would be however it's determined.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Though it is definitely true that the existing members are pretty tapped out. Also undertaking a comp plan process. So there might end up being some juggling of things. I'm not really sure, but it may not, it may take a minute to work out, but I will definitely send a quick note to Mr. Leonard.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for raising that, Steve. All right. Anything else on membership? Right. Let's go into the ethics. I have read this. I feel like it stands pretty well in terms of content and intent. And I feel like generally our group doesn't have opportunities to have conflict of interest that I'm aware of. because usually we don't deal with financial things, so we're making advisory comments. Oh, there is one, 5.7. If we could just look at that. There's this thing about an annual disclosure of organization affiliations that could conceivably present a conflict of interest. I don't think we've ever talked about that or done it. Does anybody have any experience with that? Is it something we need to pay a lot of attention to, or does it just need to be there? John Mirsky?
I'm almost certain this whole section is the same or very similar in the Energy Commission bylaws, and I think probably in others. As far as I know, this has never been requested or administered either by the chairs, myself included, or by city staff. Part of that is perhaps related to the fact that there has been turnover in the position on city staff that has sort of been the liaison to commissions in general. So if in my recollection was that there were some upgrades in both of these bylaws and in others that took place a couple of years ago in this section. And if this is deemed necessary, then I think this needs to be administered by the city, where there's just a calendar reminder by the staff person who administers that this form goes out and that it has to be resubmitted by such and such a date. I don't know that it really is going to be effective if it's left to the commissions individually.
Right. Okay.
So I think this should go back to the city attorney and ask, is this really necessary? And if it is appropriate and necessary, because it may be necessary for transparency purposes, then it needs to be administered in a way that it's going to be done in an effective and efficient way. By the way, there have been issues in the past in the Energy Commission where we've had DTE representatives and other people that have been associated with utilities that have been on the commission. I could see that it could happen in the Environmental Commission, where we've had people in the landscaping business and actually do with Christopher Graham, and we're talking about an issue related to landscaping and ordinances and things like that. So I think this is important, and we just need to keep it in mind as we talk about these issues. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Brown.
Yeah, we did have one incident like this where a member of the our liaison with the Parks Advisory Commission had a potential conflict of interest. So he was recused during one discussion. But after some reminders were made. But when I first joined the Environmental Commission, I submitted a disclosure of my affiliations. I was asked to, but I haven't updated it. But on the other hand, my affiliations haven't changed. So I think it's a good idea to do it annually. Right. But I would agree with John that just a reminder and entering.
It should actually be part of the application process, right? I assume. Uh-oh, did we lose Sean? I think we may have.
I think it was at that time.
Yeah. Okay. We need to get Sean back. I wonder if he lost power.
Could happen. There's another thunderstorm warning tonight.
I know. All right. Okay, I'm just going to look at my notes here. Sean Rose, my power flickered and I lost internet. Oh my gosh. Okay, hold on a sec.
Oh, Rita, you can put it up on the screen.
Did the meeting end? No, we're okay. Oh, let me just talk with Sean for a second. We'll text.
Sure.
All right.
It looks like I can share my screen, so anybody else that can pull up the bylaws should be able to
Right. I just have to find those bylaws and get them on top. So I. He may not be back for a few minutes. Okay, we'll watch for Sean. I will do my best to pull this up. Everything says Environmental Commission. I'm close. One second. Sorry, y'all. Okay. Sean, are you back?
I am. Sorry
Here.
about
Oh,
that.
good.
Power flickered.
Well, sorry about that for you. And I could not, I'm sorry, I'm lame at doing the screen share. Apologize to everyone.
I will pull it back up.
Okay, thank you.
Just a quick comment while that's happening. You used to be able to do it through the Environmental Commission and the Energy Commission web pages, but with this, the redesign of the website, I can't see where that's possible anymore. I used to go to Legistar and then to the commissions and click on the web page for the commission, and you could get to the bylaws, but I don't see where they're posted anymore. So maybe that someone can check that.
Right. And, you know, I guess we'll have to find out where we're going to be housed. You know, at present, we are sort of on the OSI website. I don't know if that's going to change or not. Okay. All right. Sean, thank you for being back. And if we could proceed, does anybody have any updates that they would like to see included in officers? I'm gonna move forward with the next section on meetings. So we have our regularly scheduled meetings. I did not have anything to add except, let's see. Oh, just to call out and point out for us all that our quorum is 8. Our goal is to have 15 members. And so our sub-quorum count is max is 7. Okay. We've got then the agenda and order of business. That's our usual that we're doing tonight. I did not have any changes for that. And then we got Article 9, which kind of gets us into the committees and work groups. So my interpretation of all this is that committees are quite formal and have, I think, a specific goal. They're appointed, they have more actual restrictions, I think, in terms of having agendas posted and noticed to the community. And they require staff support, is my interpretation of this. But we can also have, as in point 9.6, we can have our work groups and designated in those people to perform research and develop recommendations on specific topics without creating a committee. So it's a little more informal, and that's kind of the direction that we're going in our next discussion for tonight. Does anybody have any concern or comment about that? Committees versus work groups. And Steve, you raised that point earlier. Do you think that as this is written, that this is adequate for us?
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good.
Yes.
It's not clear though what, except that, it's not clear what differentiates a committee from a work group.
It says here, research and develop recommendations. Members on the committees do assist in work. Committees have specific tasks that are delegated to them. And I'll just call in Councilmember Dish for your comment.
Well, I just wondered if anybody knew what committees we currently have. I'm only familiar with working groups.
As far as I know, we don't have any. We've had sort of established working groups that have been in place for a while that have worked on natural features, specifically the pollinator group, water quality. So we've been work group oriented.
Yeah. In my experience here on the commission, there was a natural features committee. Chris isn't here today, unfortunately, but Chris Graham participated in a committee that included quite a few council members, as well as commission members and other members of the community to help, to help strengthen the natural features, in the city's ordinances to help strengthen the treatment of natural features. And that was like 15 years ago. So, as far as, so Chris, I remember when I first started, Chris we had like 3 council members on this committee. John Mirsky was a regular participant as well. And so this was always counted as a committee, but, that's all I remember about, that's my historical memory.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Yackman.
It seems like as I read this, maybe moving towards having committees instead gives us some of what we need, namely some structure around what the charge is and ensuring that we're able to have the appropriate staff support. Because in my experience on the Transportation Commission, we've created committees and they've had a very clear charge. And I think that's useful to ensuring that that the whole commission is on board with what they're doing and there's kind of a defined point to it. I feel like that would be helpful.
Mm-hmm. Councilmember Dish.
Those are really good points. Councilmember Ackman. Yet as I read this paragraph, it seems like a lot of work to set up a committee. The committee may contain community members who shall be appointed for a time certain. The commission shall forward to City Council the names and qualifications of the community members appointed to committees. Committees shall comply with blah 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 section of the city code. I don't even know what that section is, but I would wonder what's in there. So I'm wondering if rather than I can see how the Natural Features Committee probably made sense if it was setting up some kind of program and had a specific outcome. But if what we're using now are work groups, and the informality of the work group serves us, but we really do want work groups to have closer relationships with staff so that people's time isn't wasted and so that there isn't friction when, people have invested a lot of hours into a work product that ends up not to be in a form that the city can easily assimilate. Maybe we just want to, and other alternatives. So one alternative is to, as Councilmember Agnew suggested, more firmly institutionalize what are now work groups and make them committees. The other alternative would be to make sure that we do not have so many work groups that they can't be provided staff support, and have them work more closely with staff to coordinate their tasks with things that fill gaps that OSI and solid waste, which are our kind of major departments, actually need. So that's just two ways of thinking about this, but we might want to have a broader discussion of our goals before we sort of get into the nitty-gritty of deciding whether we want to be more committees or more work groups or whatever.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner Brown.
Yeah, Lisa, those are great points. I should have said this earlier, but in my mind, I have the difference between a committee and a working group over the years has been the committees are for much larger projects that go over many years that are likely to include more than a quorum of commissioners and council members. And so that's basically the distinction, is that a committee would be a very large group working on a major multi-year project that would have over a quorum of the commissioners and council members involved. Whereas the working groups are under a quorum, and therefore to conform with the Open Meeting Act, they don't require as much staff support. There's a major distinction there between the staff support that's required for a committee versus a working group.
I do feel like we have operated in the informal realm generally. Commissioner Ackman.
Yeah, just for comparison's sake, I was looking at the bylaws of the Transportation Commission,
Mm-hmm.
and they only define committees, and it's defined, I would say it's kind of a middle ground, basically. It doesn't have all of this, it doesn't have a ton of formality around it. It doesn't have the degree of formality around it as is here, but it has some formality. And anyway, I'd be happy to share it after this meeting, just in case it's helpful to look at.
Yeah, seems like we need a clarity on this, right? Commissioner Dale?
Some of the benefit of having likely to
Anya, it is really hard to hear you. Your voice is going in and out.
How about now?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, so I understand the potential benefit of doing committees, right? If that means that we're going to have if that means that it might be easier to have a deliverable move towards implementation, right? But I think I also want to be really cognizant of the amount of staff time that gets put towards it, and also the restriction that could happen with having to meet all the quorum requirements and stuff like that. Is there the possibility to do something where you basically have a work group, and then when it comes time to sort of move something a little bit farther, moves into committee? I mean, is there an opportunity for fluidity between that, or is that something that's just is not done?
I don't have an absolute answer on that. Looking for help. There's Commissioner Mirsky.
I agree with most everything that's been said. That's also the experience in the Energy Commission. We had subcommittees or committees, and we then moved to working groups. We don't really have any right now. My advice would be, we can spend a lot of time on this in terms of the bureaucracy of this, and it may not change much of anything. I think this defines some basic structure. The one for a working group is a floor. That doesn't mean that it couldn't be any more formal. And we may spend a lot more time on trying to tweak language here that may have very little return on the time invested.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll just say that I had been going into this with the assumption that we wouldn't be making any change in this, because I had the next agenda item is to talk about work groups for us, and assigning it and trying to introduce a little bit of formality to those work groups in terms of providing something that is kind of like a deliverable or something to the commission as well as to our what I see as those we are to serve is as advisors to council. So, yeah. Do we have any strong sense of where to go with this group? Any strong feeling for change? Mr. Ackman.
I was just going to
Ackman.
I no, it's no problem. I agree with Commissioner Mirsky. It's probably, we should think about the value of our time in tinkering with this. And if it's not, maybe it's more important to talk about actually the working groups than it is to fiddle with this.
Okay. All right. Does that mean that we could move on? Because I think we're close, because I only found actually in the whole rest of this, the only thing is that would be the miscellaneous item 12.1. At some point, we need some advice as to whether this would remain as the Office of Sustainability and Innovations, or if it's going to be changed over to Public Services. And I don't know if Sean, if you know that, or if we need to just wait. This is hardly something that's going to stop our work, but just for documentation.
Yeah, my understanding is that it would switch over to Public Services, but I don't know exactly when that switch will happen, and I don't know if it necessarily has to happen in this document before it happens.
Okay, so it seems to me that there were some elements in the purpose, objectives, and duties that could be modified a little bit. And looking through this. And I think that's mostly it. And our clarification. So if we can move on to our next item, which is the discussion of the work groups, maybe the work groups thing can be finalized. But I would like to say, would anybody like to raise a hand to just help me tweak these minor elements of the purpose, objectives, and duties? Yay, thank you, Commissioner Curtis. All right, you're on. With your permission, I would like to move on to our next item, which is talking about our work groups. We have a listing of who's in which of the existing work groups. And at our last meeting in June, we had discussed creating a new biodiversity work group. Sean, before we move forward, I got a text message from Commissioner Graham that he was waiting. I'm not sure if he says he's here. I don't know if you can see him in the...
Yes, I just admitted him. Apologies. I forgot to check after I got back on from my power outage journey. So
all right, great. Hello. Okay, Commissioner Graham, welcome to the meeting. And the our next thing was to talk about these work groups. So we had a circular economy work group. And I don't know, Sean, do you mind sharing screen again and just doing that little table? Because I'm thinking that we could shuffle a few names around to create our new list of members and see if everybody likes it.
Sure. Also to Commissioner Mirsky, your point earlier about the location of the bylaws on the website. Those are, if you go to the Office of Sustainability Innovations homepage and then the About section, then underneath of that, there's sustainability related boards and commissions, and that's where you can find it. All right, and let me pull up the work groups document.
Great, thank you. So what I put together this table, actually based on something that Commissioner Curtis put together. Thank you very much. Just so right now, let's just look at like who's listed. We have, and then the work groups that are listed. We've got circular economy. And with the members listed, I'm just going to ask whether you wish to continue in your role in that group in working together. And that would be Commissioner Brown, Commissioner Callowart, Commissioner Dale. You were listed as an observer, and that was sort of like a kind of not so well defined, but it's like get to at least see what's going on there. Participation, Commissioner Dish and Commissioner Wayhang was also listed as an observer, and that was 5 of us, just to keep the quorum issue in mind. Are those members of that work group, the circular economy, those that still want to be on that? And is anybody else interested?
I'm not
And-
listed as an observer, I don't think. I don't
Rita,
know.
can I ask a question? I remember some people
Yes.
saying they wanted to kind of like keep up to speed with what's going on, but I don't remember us kind of creating a role of observer. And in my mind, that kind of goes against what we're trying to do with working groups. I think each of us have been bringing, or we can bring, what's going on as updates we've been doing at each of our monthly commission meetings. So, I mean, I want everybody to be connected to it who wants to, but I also, I mean, I think all of us, all the different groups have things they want to move forward with. And my sense is, I think it should be folks who can commit to kind of doing, whatever it is the group charts out for themselves.
Okay. I think that's a reasonable kind of expectation. Commissioner Dale?
Yeah, likewise. The observer designation is kind of a funny one for me. I think, in my case with the circular economy, the spot where I'd like to fit in is to actually be of help where I can, but specific to as it relates to anything that involves university or construction and demolition waste, right? So it's not so much an observer role; it's more like as needed.
Defined role.
Yeah.
And we have a plan for you, Anya. Let me say.
And so I don't know what that does term is there, but
Yeah.
No, just in terms of the connection with the university, just what you said. Yes.
So is that's I guess as long as that is clear to the work group to know when to tag Anya to join in, it seems like that would be a way to address that. Does that seem right? And Anya, did you want to say anything else with your hand up? Okay. Mr. Gruber.
I just wonder if we want to start with the new groups, because if we are moving away or mushing the pollinator and natural features group together, we're going to have more people than we can as it is. And so if that's the case, it might be that some of us on those groups would like to be members on these other groups. And I'll just say that I
Right.
have interest in the circular economy group as a member if there isn't enough space for all of us that are currently on the pollinator and natural feature group. So I'll just throw that out there.
Okay, thanks. Well, sure, we can switch over. So biodiversity, I think this was in response to recognition in that last meeting that there's great overlap in natural features and pollinators. And so the thought was to make this combination. So it has yet to meet and define itself, I will say. So with that in mind, let's look at biodiversity. And I guess I could just go down and say among the among those who are participants in pollinator and natural features, I'll just go from the top. Commissioner Ackman, Councilmember Ackman, would you like to be in the biodiversity group? And is it something that interests you? And yeah,
Yes,
okay.
but I'm also happy to, we have a quorum issue that can be
Yeah.
flexed.
Okay, so let's just see where we are when we go through this. I see your hand, Commissioner Brown.
Oh, I just wanted to say, I mean, there's no reason to include all 10 people. It would just mean promoting it to a committee instead of a working group.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Especially because, the strategic plans going on now, things like that they might require enough work that, that all 10 people, could be busy, or it would be good to have the input of 10 people. For any work
okay.
product, it's going to come before the entire commission.
Right. So I'm not aware of how that's going to work just yet. I was just thinking that we would say yes or no whether we wanted to be members of the biodiversity work group right now. So I'm not sure how to address your comment. I think you're muted.
I'm just saying that if all 10 people want to transfer natural features and pollinator to biodiversity, you could just redefine it as a committee and then follow the Open Meetings Act.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Well, let's see how it goes. You're next in line. Commissioner Dish.
Let's be wary about that because that is huge. That means the meetings have to be noticed. They have to be there has to be an intensity of staff support that I do not know if is available for this kind of work. And it does sound like there has to be greater clarity about the group's mission and a term limited appointment. So I would be hesitant. I don't want to be on this group, but I really want it to get off the ground. So I don't want to burden itself with, so many requirements that it may not be able to.
Right. So maybe I'll take another tact on dealing with this because I have an idea of people that are interested, and I could suggest some names. And I think that the question will be what to do with others. So I was going to suggest that this work group include Commissioner Curtis, Commissioner Dale, Commissioner Graham, Commissioner Gruber, Commissioner Mirsky, myself, and if we had Councilmember Ackman, that would be 7. 6, 7. That would mean that for dealing with that we have a few members, and so this is like the discussion of these work groups, right? And we're sort of shuffling cards. Let's figure out where to get people where they want to be and as best possible, where they can serve and in their interest levels. That is my suggestion. And what we have here then is, I guess a question of, we don't have Commissioner Marsan in a work group. And I guess the question is, it's like, I guess you don't have to be in the work group either, right? Mr. Mirsky.
Yeah, in terms of a quorum, I probably should know this, the answer to this question, but if all 15 seats are not filled on the commission, is the quorum number based on the number of filled seats or the number of total seats, including open seats? Because if we have a situation, which I think we have right now, with some openings, then that potentially would vary the threshold for a quorum and might put some of these groups into jeopardy. That's something we just probably should check and verify once we've put together these committees and know the number of members.
All right.
My understanding.
Oh, go ahead, Sean, if you know this.
I was going to say, my understanding is that the quorum is based off of the number of current members. So currently we have 13 members, which would mean a quorum is 7. So having 7 members in the working group would be reaching that quorum and would not be possible for a working group.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Commissioner Brown.
Oh, yeah, I got a lot of things on my plate, so you can take my name off the biodiversity group.
Okay.
I don't think I could really find the time for that.
Okay.
Between the construction and demolition stuff, the quality, plus all the other things I'm doing, and I don't think I could make a meaningful contribution.
All right.
And it's in good hands.
Yeah. So, all right, so we have a 7 issue on the biodiversity. Do we want to talk about water quality? Are those members who are on the water quality work group those that want to remain on it? Commissioner Gruber.
I would like to be taken off that work group.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Commissioner Dale.
I think so far I have not contributed much, so or anything. So
Okay.
very interested. I could probably be taken. Well, so
And that's the water quality as well. Is that right?
Yeah.
Water quality. Yep. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
So that currently we've got Steve, myself, Sarah Nedrick, and Maisie.
Could I be switched to observer?
Okay. Well, we probably need to define that a little bit better, but okay. All right. And all right, any other comments on this? So pollinator, just basically cross off all those names. Natural features, cross off all those names. And then we've got circular economy is Commissioner Brown, Commissioner Calloward, Commissioner Dale as, oh, there you are. You have your hand up. Commissioner Dale.
I just don't know how to put my hand down on my phone.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right. Okay. Okay. Commissioner Dish, Commissioner Wayhing, are you okay with being on the circular economy work group?
Yes, it is my life. I live and breathe it.
Good. All right. Okay, so we've got then Commissioner Wayhing also as a member on circular economy. That means a little more commitment. Great. Water, we've got Commissioner Brown, myself, Commissioner Nedrick, and Commissioner Wayhing. Okay. All right. So here we are. Commissioner Ackman, we've got a tough issue here with our quorum. So
That's okay.
until we get up to like increase our numbers, I guess.
Yeah.
We could invite you back in. Would that be reasonable?
Oh, yeah, no problem. Yep.
Okay. Super. Yeah.
With Commissioner Brown dropping out, we would have 7 or 6 members in biodiversity, which would not be meaningful with
Okay.
Council Member Ackman still
1,
there.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. See, I've got 7. So I'll go through what I think. Commissioner Ackman, then we'll leave it. Commissioner Curtis, Commissioner Dale, Commissioner Graham, Commissioner Gruber, Commissioner Mirsky, and myself.
Apologies, I had left Commissioner Gruber off.
4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. Okay. So, Commissioner Ackman, I appreciate your flexibility, and we'll call you in. We're going to get staff. We're going to get back up to our numbers, and we'll take it from there. So, I believe that we have these groups established. I think that we need to do a little bit of clarification for each of them as to kind of like a mission and plan for the year. I think that would be worthwhile, what we can expect from each other as members of these groups. And maybe that's something that we could talk about at our next meeting. So with that, I would like to conclude this discussion unless there's someone with something else to say. And then thank you all. I know this is like not what we're used to. I'm hoping that we get back up and into content in our coming meetings. We can now go through our reports from committees and staff. Okay. And what I'll do is I'll just name off the work groups and we'll see how things are going. Circular economy. Commissioner Calloway, do you have anything to report?
We've got our meeting Wednesday at 9. Invitations was circulated for that a while ago. We're going to build out the kind of goal areas that we talked about at the June meeting, and we are really going to, I think, focus on construction and demolition. And then the other two, we want to wait on the circular economy strategy because there's also an open staff position in the city for that it would be good to wait and coordinate. And then there's still a lot of conversations going on around metrics, but we think we can move ahead with some really significant and I think useful work with construction and demolition at this time.
Great. Look forward to hearing more. So next on my list is pollinators, but pollinators, well, we do have a little bit. I'm going to ask Sean to talk about what's coming up for pollinators that's now going to be moved into biodiversity. If you don't mind, Sean, talking about our September event.
Sure. On September 10th, please correct me if that's wrong. I have several events in September, so I'm keeping track of multiple dates. I believe it's the 10th, which is a Sunday from 2 to 6 p.m. We will be doing a pollinators walking tour. That is going to be, we're going to have a central location at Blohm Meadworks, where we'll have tables for folks to come in and learn about pollinators and how they can help to protect pollinators by planting native plant species, leaving the leaves in the fall, otherwise following our suggestions under the pollinator or area yard care program. And then from there, we will have a virtual map that they'll be able to go visit as many spots on this walking tour as they want. They're all downtown areas, city parks, University of Michigan sites, a few private residences. The folks have agreed to have their yards open during that time period to go around and take a look at the infrastructure that we have in place to support pollinators, whether that's native plant gardens or beehives or what have you. And I believe there will also be honey and apple tastings at Blum. And yeah, so it should be a really fun event. If you are available, then we encourage you to stop by.
Yeah, and I want to thank Sean for doing a lot of the background work on this and getting it started. It's going to be fun. You should all come. Okay, water quality. Do we have a report on water quality?
Yeah. We haven't met since May actually, but we have some ongoing things. One is that Commissioner Nedrich is inquiring with the city about the use of brine in the city. She's following up on chloride pollution, which comes mostly from road salt applications. And I myself am looking into inquiring with city staff about stormwater, where floods have, which neighborhoods have experienced flooding recently. And we're also participating in the as observers in the Huron River Watershed Council's Mid-Huron working group, which has quarterly meetings. There was one within the last month where various items were discussed. Of interest to this group would be the response to the EGLA consent judgment regarding nutrient pollution to the Huron River, which is mostly phosphorus rather than nitrogen. And so there's a working group within the Huron River Watershed Council that's coordinating governmental actions on that. But I don't have any details about that yet. And then we're also looking into reviewing the Green Streets initiative, and also I'm pursuing Part 201 sites in the Upper Allen Creek drainage, because of some residents have noticed a lot of often there's a strong petroleum smell coming out of the ground in West Park. So we're going to see if we can track down where that's coming from and maybe get some action on a Part 201 site, but we haven't located which one is the problem. Or maybe there's a new Part 201 site. Who knows? That's it.
All right. Thank you very much. Natural features. So this will be the last report from natural features. We're going to be biodiversity next time. Chris, Graham, is there anything that you have to report that on the natural features work group?
Biodiversity and natural features are all going to be one committee?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, we haven't gone very far with natural features, except some of us met with Derek Delacourt, and he expressed great affinity for natural features in the city and warned us that there were lots of competing priorities. And I suggested to him that protecting natural features was established policy by unanimous vote of the council 20 years ago. And it's not something that ought to be set aside for new priorities. And he said, well, we'll do the best we can. Meanwhile, the master planning process apparently has not even begun yet. And we again asked to be party at the table, not as commenters from the public, but as other city officials involved with that process, at least insofar as the natural features master plan part of it is concerned. And he said, well, there are a lot of other people who want to be part of that process. And I said, okay. We said, okay. And so we'll see how that works out. In any case, it's wonderful to have things happening with pollinators. It kind of refreshes the wheels. And I'm not sure what Sean was talking about, the Monarch Festival at Plessy Park. If that's what he was talking about, then it's coming up in early September, and Elaine and I went last year. It was wonderful. Apparently there's a fundraising dinner the night before or Friday night, and I guess the festival goes all weekend, but that turned out to be a very fun event and well worth your time. There's a pollinator hunt team as part of the Wolf Pack that has made a major donation in support of that festival. And they met today and have a long list of things they're trying to do too. Pollinators are flying, and certainly there have been butterflies in our garden. Black swallowtails, yellow swallowtails, monarchs. It's late summer, the flowers are out there, and things are great for pollinators. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. The next group I have is planning report. Commissioner Dish, I see your hand now.
I wanted to offer just a little bit of perspective on the meeting that we had with Mr. Delacourt. In terms of planning, I don't think that there's anything. I don't think there's anything directly of interest to this group. But I did miss the last meeting, and so in any case, I will have to remember that I need to be reporting to you guys since we don't have a number yet. But I did just want to say that my understanding of what this notion of competing priorities is, it's not that there are competing priorities and natural features scores low. The idea is that in any decision that we look at, we are looking at natural features, we are looking at other aspects of sustainability like electrification. We are looking at creating housing in the context of a housing crisis, and that the comprehensive planning process is the appropriate place for people to deliberate the relative weight of all of those things. And that any one group may have its leading issue, but it is through the comprehensive planning process that we get full public engagement and feedback around how people generally want us to prioritize those things, or how we work through, because it's not as if I say, oh, well, today natural features doesn't matter to me, but tomorrow it will. And then the day after, I'll prioritize housing. You're always weighing all of these things in every decision that you're making, and you're never coming out with something that is good all the way around. And Derek sometimes likes to say, if a decision pleases no one, you've probably actually gotten it right, because you've gotten something right about every little thing, but nobody is totally happy. So I don't want anyone in this group to feel that natural features is taking a back seat to other things. It is absolutely central to this comprehensive planning process, and that process is underway. The planning team is in town in a week and doing stakeholder interviews with council members. And I don't know if there's other parts of the city going on right now. And its series of public engagement meetings are going to be planned and up and running very soon. So, I really don't want, especially Chris, to feel like that work is wasted or not honored.
Thank you, Councilmember Dish. I think we'll all feel better when we can see it and understand it. Right now it's kind of a theoretical, and until we see it, that's when we'll understand and be able to discuss better, I think. I know that Commissioner Marsan is not here. Councilmember Ackman, do you have comments on transportation?
I do.
Thank you.
One thing, this isn't Transportation Commission related, but it's transportation related. Friday, September 22nd is World Car Free Day. And there is a car-free day challenge going on actually for the week of September 22nd to September 29th from the Get Downtown program. You can Google that and participate in it, just as encouraging people to take bikes, buses, scooters, and more. And you can show your environmental impact and win prizes. The other thing, transportation related, is that we just passed in Transportation Commission a change to the neighborhood traffic calming program that makes it easier and more accessible to add in changes as we reconstruct roads that make the roadway safer and more amenable to people who are outside of cars. Right now, that program is completely separate from road reconstruction. It's a petition-led process. Certain elements that are useful for calming traffic are only used in that program, and so they're not used outside of the petition process. And so a funny thing can happen where basically they're reconstructing a road and they know that there's a speed problem and there's a certain set of elements that are completely off the table because they're part of the petition-led neighborhood traffic calming program. So anyway, Transportation Commission and a subcommittee of that has been working hard on changes to that for probably 9 months, and now has something that they forwarded to council, and I'm bringing that forward hopefully for the next meeting. A couple of other random non-transportation related things. I'm not sure if people know about the Huron River Watershed Council fundraiser that's on the 7th. Suds on the River. I'll be there. Hopefully, maybe I'll see some of you there too. And last but not least, some of our colleagues on council, myself not included, went to Boston recently to learn about how they're doing district geothermal. And it sounds like that was a really fruitful trip for all involved. Dr. Stoltz was there. The mayor was there. A couple of other of my colleagues were there. And they also, I think, spoke to someone who has, I don't know if it's like a citizen science type of project or what, but he goes around and he measures gas because basically gas is leaking sort of all the time. And he's targeted certain neighborhoods where the levels are off the charts. And I think from what I understand from my colleagues, we are having that person visit Ann Arbor to kind of show us what he does and to create a map of our city with this kind of like gas leaking. So I thought that was pretty interesting and relevant to this group. That's it.
That's great. The next one I have on this list is council. And so we have our 2 council members here. Do either of you have anything that you would like to comment on from council?
We just passed the first reading for the second time for the home energy rating ordinance. It was a first reading again because OSI made some changes based on questions and feedback from the first reading. So that passed and will advance to a second reading, I believe, on September 5th. OSI has done a really good job of putting together frequently asked questions as they've gotten a lot of these. So if you're wanting to know more about this, that's a good place to go. I can't think of anything else. Can you, Councilmember Dish?
Probably nothing of particular specific interest in the Environmental Commission other than that one that you just mentioned.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to do a chair's report. I just want to say that since our last meeting in June, Steve Brown and I went to the compost facility and participated in the audit of compost, sorting through a selection of composted delivered materials to find out what we get. And there was plastic, there was some treated wood, there were some things that were inappropriate for that. And right now we're waiting for the full analysis of what's going on with composting, and that will be used to direct information that will be given to the public in the future. I want to remind and encourage anyone who knows some youth candidates, that we are seeking those youth candidates. And we do have a form that we could distribute to all of the commissioners to pass out to people you know, or to post in an area that would be visible to get an additional commissioner. It would be great. So either Sean or I will forward that form to you. It's just a quick write-up of what the commission does. I welcome your help. And then just to report on the ongoing monitoring of the 1,4-dioxane plume. There has been some testing that was reported just today in MLive that identified some low levels of 1,4-dioxane in private wells in township areas, Scioto Township, in an area that's north of the boundary of the the plume boundary that's been determined. And so this is what's not known at this point, is whether this is actually new or if it's been there for a while. So there will be some subsequent testing. Ideally, this will be used to support the expansion of the ongoing monitoring, as well as to support moving toward an EPA Superfund designation. So stay tuned on that. The other thing is we had a big rain event yesterday, pretty intense, not so much necessarily in Ann Arbor, but it was surprisingly intense. So we are living through climate change right now. I would say, yeah.
4¼ inches in my house.
4¼
Yeah.
Yikes.
It
That's a
washed out
lot.
the road and
That's a lot.
damage.
Yeah, yikes. Okay. That's the end of my report. And Sean provided the report from staff. Thank you very much, Sean. If there's anything you want to add to that.
Well, apologies, I may have missed it, but looking at my notes, I don't know, did we have an Energy Commission report out?
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Thank you. Commissioner Mirsky.
Sure. At our August 8th meeting, we had two interesting presentations. First of all, one about the grid, electrical grid, with a representative from the University of Michigan who studies grid and grid reliability, and then from DTE. The second was the updated greenhouse gas inventory for 2022. If I can just summarize both of those real quickly, I'd call everybody's attention to the DTE report. It was covered, I think, fairly accurately in MLive. And the reason why I want to call people's attention to it is that it really was devoid of any specifics. There was a lot of talk about improvements in reliability, a lot of improvements about improvements in the grid, and that the grid was going to be one of the best in the nation in 10 to 15 years. But in terms of real specifics, real measurables, real commitments, something that we could hold DTE to, there really was nothing. And given that we have a carbon neutrality target of 2030, and they're talking 10 to 15 years, there seems to be a mismatch there. Missy, in her opening or very early in the Monday meeting to council, she talked about the fact that it's likely that we'll have more meetings with DTE. And I think it's really important that the Energy Commission and also City Council holds DTE accountable and not just give really sort of anecdotal information about what they're doing. So if you're interested, go to Legistar or go to YouTube and watch the City Government channel and watch that. The other topic was, as I mentioned, the greenhouse gas inventory. Real quick summary, it's not yet posted to OSI's greenhouse gas inventory web page, but you can also find the report on Legistar. Greenhouse gas emissions in 2022 were up 9.6% over 2021. They are down 3.3% versus 2019, the last year before the pandemic. If you look back all the way to 2020 or to 2000, I should say, and the inventory was done a little bit differently, but basically we're reducing emissions at the rate of about 1% per year. It's been a little bit faster than that, between 1% and 2% since 2015, but we're basically reducing emissions at about that clip. So if you look at what we need to get to by 2030, we have really a tall task in front of us. Let's see if there's anything else that I wanted to say. I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sorry for missing that earlier. All right. We are now items for our next agenda. You can see on our agenda that we're looking for a presentation from the group called Perpetual that will deal with the circular economy. If any other council member wants to propose something for the agenda, please let me and Sean know. That'd be great. So with that, we are at our second public comment time, unless I missed anything else, Sean.
I believe the next scheduled meeting is announced before the public comment.
Oh, okay. The next scheduled meeting is September 28th at 7 p.m. So we will see you here on the little screen.
And John Kellerwood has his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thanks, Steve. Just the question I had was, if I missed it, I'm sorry, but Sean, were you going to be circulating that updated list of working group members? It would just be helpful to have that sooner rather than later.
Yes, I will distribute that with the follow-up from this meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you for checking on that. All right. And with that, I'm going to move to the second public comment. This is an opportunity for persons to speak for up to 3 minutes. Please call 888-788-0099 and enter meeting ID 922-9696-1644. City staff will select the callers that have raised their hand one by one using the last 3 digits of your phone number. In order to electronically raise your hand, please press *9 on your phone. You'll hear an automated announcement that the host is allowing you to speak. When speaking, please move to a quiet area and mute any television or background sounds so that we may hear you clearly. Please state your name and address at the beginning of your comments. And Sean, do you see any people listening or with their hands raised?
We do not have any callers currently.
Okay. Give it a brief wait. Okay, Sean, do you see anyone now?
There are no callers.
Okay. So with that, I would appreciate a motion to adjourn the meeting. From Commissioner Gruber, I see a couple of seconds and move to adjourn. Everybody say aye. Thank you. Thank you very much for sticking through this meeting. Administrative stuff still will help us, I think, in the end. So thank you. I appreciate it. There'll be some follow-up messages coming, and we'll see you in September. Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.